Welcome to Perspectives El Paso. I'm Leon Blevins of El Paso Community College Television, and I have guests today on a musical topic. First, Prentice Lofton. I first met Prentice Lofton years ago through one of my former students named Yvonne Marmolejo, a singer, beautiful, wonderful singer. And she and Prentice Lofton, working together, ended up getting married. And they started the El Paso Opera. And so we went to that very first El Paso Opera, and Yvonne sang the part of Tosca. Oh, my wife started a program, and we performed an Easter pageant for about 10 years. My wife was the drama director, Martha Seymour the musical director, and I played the part of Jesus. My daughter played the part of Mary, the mother of Jesus, of all things. And I didn't have a lot of lines, but a part of the drama was there was the voice of Jesus with all the things he was going through, and we got a soloist, a singer, to sing that part all the way through a 2-hour show. As it turned out, one year at Jesus Chapel, inside the building where we were doing the pageant at that time, the voice of Jesus was Prentice Lofton. So today you're looking at me, a much older Jesus image, and Prentice Lofton, the voice of Jesus. Do you remember any of those lines that you sang while I was up on the stage?
Actually, I only remember a few words, but it was, Judas, I love you, Judas.
Oh, that was the temptation scene in the movie.
Yes, that's right.
So Prentice still has some of it hanging up there. It's called an earworm. It's right there somewhere.
Yeah, I'll always remember that specific line.
That specific line. Well, it's wonderful to have you here today. And give my
Thank
regards
you.
to Yvonne.
I sure will.
We cross pathways from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have one of your former students that you taught voice lessons, right? Prentice used to be at UT El Paso as a professor and private voice lessons and so on. And Mario Sanchez, welcome to the program. Good to have you here today. Now you live in Juarez, right?
I live in Juarez, yes.
So you were coming across the bridge and taking lessons from him?
Yes, all of my life I've been, back and forth Juarez, El Paso,
okay,
to do a lot of music.
Well, we almost need to do a separate program about this later, maybe next semester even, have you come over and talk about your work. And you told me off campus, camera a while ago, that you've opened a restaurant and a museum over there.
That's right.
That's a whole story in itself. Today we want to focus on music, and especially the El Paso Chorale. That's the reason you're here. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about the organization and when it started, and who were some of the founders that got it going, and when you came into this.
Well, I understand that the chorale is in the neighborhood of 80 years old.
Okay.
And I don't know who was involved in the very beginning of it, but it was incorporated, I believe, in 1989. I do remember singing in a production when I was in college that I believe was the El Paso Chorale and some UTEP students. We were singing Beethoven's Missa Solemnis down at Liberty Hall. Mm-hmm. I believe the conductor was Abraham Chavez.
Okay.
And then I came back. I went away to school, I came back, and then my involvement with the chorale started in 1993. Now, before I was involved with the chorale, Denise Kress conducted it for, I believe, about 10 years. Before Denise Kress, Hugh Carden, I believe, conducted a couple of years. And the group was mainly to occasionally sing with the symphony whenever there was going to be a large production. When I took it over in 1993, we started doing our own productions where we would perform things like Elijah, The Creation, Handel's Messiah, of course, and Brahms' Requiem, the big works,
right,
where we developed our own organization, which was going out and getting funding and being involved in development, just like all the other arts organizations here in town that are in the musical arena. And we did that for, I guess, about 5-6 years, and then as our program grew, there were groups or musical organizations that wanted us to start singing with them again. And so we did that for a number of years with the El Paso Symphony, with the Las Cruces Symphony. We even performed some with the Juarez Symphony. our group ended up being the choir for El Paso Opera when we developed the opera company. But there is one year that I remember in 1995 where I had to put together one choir to do 5 different performances. I'd gotten calls from Zarzuela El Paso, which we used to have in El Paso, El Paso Opera, El Paso Symphony, Las Cruces, and well, it wasn't Las Cruces, it was El Paso Pro Musica. And they all needed a choir to do different things. So I said, okay, I'm going to just put together one group. I'm not going to have 4 or 5 different auditions.
Right.
And that is how we came up with the El Paso Chamber Choir, a paid group of singers. And that group became the backbone of the chorale, the big productions. The chamber choir was 24 singers, and that group sang all of the operas for, I guess, about 15 years with El Paso Opera. We did many performances with El Paso Symphony, and we did a few with Zarzuela while that company was still alive.
Okay. Now, those are the programs. Tell me a little bit about your organization. How large of a staff do you have? Do you have an office? You want to give a telephone number, a
Sure.
website?
Our website, now there are 3 people on staff at present. Myself, I'm the general director and conductor. I handle the artistic side. We have recently hired an assistant to me, which is Paul de la Peña.
Okay.
And he assists us with working with the board members in development, marketing, guild work, as well as he handles ticketing. We are now able to sell tickets out of our office to our performances. Also, we have Ted Waymeyer, who has been handling operations for the past number of years. And he has worked as a volunteer and as a staff person. So we have 3 people that are involved in the staff.
You have a grant writer?
That's me.
Okay.
I have been writing the grants.
Okay.
At some point, we hope to have a person that does that on a much more regular basis.
Okay. Well, let's work Mario into this. You've served in an administrative position with the chorale, haven't you also?
Well, presently I'm the president of the board. You know, I preside the board for El Paso Choral Society. I've been there for the last 3 years and helping here Prentice together with our other board members in strengthening the organization.
How large is your board and how often do you meet?
We meet every month, and there's 8 people involved, and we are, voluntarily working so we can provide opportunities of performing and continuous education for musicians and singers here in our community.
Well, soon after he started giving you voice lessons, is that when you joined his singing organization or organizations?
Well, I was a student of Prentice since I was 16 years old.
Okay.
So I'm 15 right now, so that's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And,
34 years.
30,
Yeah, you've held your age well. Okay.
34 years. So for 34 years, we've been working together. First as a student teacher. After that, we started working in the El Paso Opera Company for a long time. I was also part of the board for a while. And then, music has always been, I do other things. I'm not a professional musician. I'm more into business and politics in the Juarez area. But music has been always very important in my life. It's that activity that I cannot give away. It's the activity that brings the quality of life to my life. And that's why I've always been very interested in helping Prentice and other people that are involved in music in the region so we can have that quality of life in the border.
Now, what about the next generation, the young people that are coming up? You're aging, Prentice, I hate to admit it, but you and I are aging too.
Yes.
Training the young people, mentoring them so they pass on that tradition. A little bit from each one of you. First, you, Mario.
Well, that's very important. The first thing is that in order to train people, you have to train the teachers. So there's good teachers training young people, and that's one of the first things we do. A lot of the choir members are teachers, and We try to first have our productions in international level of quality. You know, we bring our solo singers come from all over the world, and our production is top match. It can compete with any musical group in the nation. So providing that opportunity to teachers so they can be in that surrounding is very important, because that is passes on to the students. Now the other thing is that it's a large choir. You know, we have a choir of around 120 people this time, and in order to have a choir that big, you have mix of ages. You know, you have older people and younger people, so younger people can hear what a mature voice is and what a professional production is, so they have that training. And also we're doing educational, Prentice can tell you about our Monday classes, for example.
Okay.
On Monday evenings, I'm teaching a music reading and theoretical class in music, so that people that join our choir that don't have the same musical background and music academic training can get trained in a very high level. And we have found that 1 out of 3 of our choir are now in those classes, which is amazing, you know, to have that many people wanting to be trained. And I think one of the exciting things about the program is that we're not just training them for the chorale, but they're taking it back to their church choirs, to their own little singing groups that some of them have. And so by the educational proponent of what we're doing, we're really having an effect on the community of El Paso and Juarez and Las Cruces. And it started out as me finding that some of them would like to be trained. And since I teach the sight reading dictation and some of the theory at the El Paso Conservatory, we decided to offer these classes to anyone that is a part of the El Paso Chorale. If they can sing well, we train them to be able to read and to be able to do the music that we perform. Now, we are not actually rehearsing year-round, and so when we are not rehearsing on Monday nights from 7 to 9:30, we're having the classes, and that's probably at least half the year or more than half the year. We had the classes all through the summer, and when we are rehearsing, instead of meeting at 7 to 9:30 when we have our rehearsal, they come in 1 hour early at 6. So they are constantly getting music training. And it is really focusing on making them be able to be self-sufficient in learning their music and in performing and being able to read.
Wow. Another personal connection of all things. Back in the early 1990s, I had a student in class named Marco Lara. He's now my co-producer with this show. He's out there looking at us right now, producing this show. And his wife, Ana Lara, is one of your singers, and that on some of those Monday nights, she's in rehearsal. It's a small world after all.
It is.
But the next generation, sometimes these people go to rehearsal. Do they bring some of their children, and they're sitting out there hearing you rehearse, and they are attracted to this music also?
Well, we sometimes will have people that bring family members, and they just sit in the back while we have our rehearsal.
Right.
But one thing that we have just recently started, it's interesting you ask about this. I just met with one of the choral directors in El Paso, and the meeting was to talk with me about how we could assist them. And some of the things that were brought up were having a competition in April for the choirs before they have to do their regular competition that they do in the community. And then there is a madrigal group that competes and goes to UIL competitions, to have a competition for that. And then also to have an East Side All-State Camp. And then one thing that we discussed in connecting the singers that graduate from high school to the El Paso Chorale is that we are looking at, possibly not this year, but we are going to work towards doing a piece in one of our concerts where we sing a piece that many of the kids learned for all region and all state camp. Right. We learn the same piece and do it 1 year later after the seniors have graduated,
Oh, that's smart.
so that they can come in and just sing with us once and see and get the experience of singing with this magnificent choir. And by doing that, we are hoping to bring in new adults to the choir, because this is an adult choir. It's 18 and over and out of high school.
Right.
One of the things that I would like to mention is that how thankful we are for having an organization that is over 80 years old. And let me tell you why that is important. It is important because, for example, I see it in the impact that we sometimes have, because for a long time there was not a lot going on in the region in terms of choral music. But since we kept on going for such a long time, we kept the theme or the subject alive. And by people coming to see us perform, they got inspired in starting new organizations in the region.
Good.
And I can tell you that, for example, in Juarez, there's a big musical rebirth right now. And a lot has to do because they were able to hear our performances and these musicians that kept it going. And for example, right now, just to give you an idea, in Juarez, we have around 3 young people symphony orchestras. We have 1 or 2 symphony orchestras, older people. And the singing is just growing. There's a lot of those singers are coming and performing with us.
Mm-hmm.
So this, what we do for the community is keep that quality of life that I'm mentioning alive, and when it goes down, if by us keeping working in the subject, it makes it stay in our community, and it is very important that it stays.
And in a very ugly world, sometimes it's essential to have something that is beautiful.
That's
There's
right.
no doubt about that.
As an example of what the effect is, we have one choral director, I believe his name is Art Camacho, that brought, I believe, 8 of his choir members in his church choir to sing with a chorale.
Mm-hmm.
All 8 of them are coming to our classes on Monday nights. I'm already hearing how much better their choir is. And that is the effect I'm hoping for.
Right.
That we don't just create music, but we train people to be able to go out and create music. And that's when I think we have really been successful, because it is our mission to create great choral works, but also to educate. And I think that often when we think of education, we're only talking about the children, but really the people that educate the children are the adults.
Right.
And we have jumped into that arena of educating the adults.
Lifelong learning. Tell me
Yes.
about your schedule. I know you have thematic things that happen around Christmas time, Easter time especially. How many concerts do you do? You follow the thematic materials there, of course. How about that? You want to tell us your schedule?
Okay, right now we are doing 2 large performances. When I say large, I mean with a professional orchestra at the Chavez Theater. We fly in our professional soloists. Mm-hmm. One is at Christmas time. This year we are again performing Handel's Messiah. On April 8th, we will be performing Mozart's Requiem. Same kind of format at the Chavez Theater. We are also starting to go into recitals. 3 days after the Messiah, one of our soloists, Natanya Washer, is staying in El Paso to give a full recital on Tuesday evening at 801 North Mesa, Trinity Methodist Church. Mm-hmm. She will be giving a full-length recital of beautiful, high-quality classical music. She's a wonderful singer, young professional singer. We are starting to go that route of bringing in professional singers to not only be our soloists for performances, but to give professional level recitals. As well, members of our chamber choir are giving 3 to 4 recitals per year in the public for the public, and the recitals usually are 3 or 4 singers. Dr. Mesa, who is mainly of the faculty at the El Paso Conservatory of Music, he is the pianist for everything that I do. He plays for the chorale and chamber choir. He also is the pianist for all of the recitals that are done. And so we have a wonderful team, that's put together to increase the amount of music that goes on in the community.
Wow. Any thoughts on that? About the schedule?
Well,
What timeline do you need? You send these things over and over, the Messiah and things like that. But something's coming up, music in hand, practice. What do you put into this?
well, it's first of all, as a board member, it's the whole year. We have to be, getting the funding and in everything that is required. Sometimes 2 shows seem too little, but actually, the cost of that is, a show might go up around $50,000 per show to do a high-level, professional level, show. And that's why it takes a long time to get that funding and the ticketing and everything. So that's a lot of work, during the year, and that's why we're very thankful with the board, and we're always asking for the support because it's something that requires a lot of effort to do a professional level production like that. But as a singer, for me, it is very important. I do other things for a living. I'm in business. I'm in politics in Juarez, and I also, have a company here in El Paso, and I come back and forth. And in the middle of all of this activity, where I get my peace is when I go perform and when I go and sing. And for that, I'm very grateful that, for the year, it takes us a month and a half to prepare for a concert. So we come every Monday to rehearse, but at the same time, I'm part of the chamber choir, and I also perform as a soloist in different recitals during the year. So it keeps me moving, it keeps me singing, and it has kept me for a long, for over 30 years. And that's why I can testify that, when you do other activities, you need something like this in your life. This is something that brings peace and reminds you of the beauty that the world has.
I remember times when I would see Mario walk through the door of a rehearsal, and I would think, thank you, God, he got here. Because he was coming in the height of the violence in Juarez.
Oh, my.
And he would not miss rehearsals. And I always felt it was a blessing just every time he got there. Because there were people coming from Juarez, and their commitment to keeping music alive was a commitment that they were not going to let anyone affect. In fact, I talked to them about it some, and I remember Mario saying, we will not let anyone choose how we live our life. And so there's a commitment to our organization that is very strong, and it really is an international group. We have many singers from Juarez, many chamber choir members from Juarez, and from Las Cruces. So it is in a sense, it's 3 states and 2 countries working together to perform concerts. And a couple of years ago, we did them all in the night visitors in Juarez and here in El Paso with the support of the U.S. State Department. They gave us a grant for our group to perform in Mexico, which I thought was wonderful.
Wow. I just thought of a parallel. Remember the Holocaust, and in some of those concentration camps there, people being treated terribly. Music, for many of them, was their salvation.
That's right.
Kept them going. Playing the violin, or if they could get any permission from the Nazis at all to have music, it made a difference. You mentioned Mario coming in and you having that thought. Reminds me of our daughter, Shalia Blevins Rose now, Shalia Rose. Just recently somebody said something about her. She's a wonderful singer. She sang the part of Mary in the Easter pageant we did for years. And somebody said to her, where did you get that voice? Where did you get that? And my wife said, that's from Nina. I think that may have been the wrong name, but I think that was the name. Her voice teacher.
Oh, Nina Jones.
Yeah, I used to take her across town and close to UTEP, and I'd sit there in the car while she'd go in for her music lessons, and someone would say, where did that voice come from? And my wife would say, it's Nina.
Yeah, Nina Jones taught for many, many, many years, you know, in El Paso, and turned out many great singers. Beautiful lady.
And some say, "Oh, that's from Prentice. Where did you get this? Where did you?" No, he had it naturally, right?
I think we actually we help the student find it. You know, if it's not there, it's not there.
That's the purpose of the teacher, to help the person
Yeah.
find it.
You help them find it, help them nurture it, and
those that don't have it, you let them down gently and find another part in the production. It may be on the theatrics back there, and the scenery, and the sets, and the artistic work.
right.
There's a lot more than just that. Even in this show, it's not just the person that's here in front of the camera. It's all those others that have their skills that they can add to.
Well, you remember when we did Aida with El Paso Opera,
Oh,
and it
yes.
took like 200 people, and there were so many servants and soldiers, and even Kamba, the elephant that we brought in, and I forget what the name of the camel was.
In
you
the
know,
Jesus Chapel, the production, it was the donkey that
The
gave
donkey,
us the problems.
okay. But you know, those are memories of bringing people together that don't get to be in shows
Right.
because they haven't been able to develop a talent in singing, but they still get to be on the stage and stand right next to some of these great singers from the choirs, but
Right.
also the great artists that are brought in from all over the world.
Well, just last night at the El Paso Opera, they had a man who had won a competition, The Voice. Michael is his first name. And a lot of these come out of church settings, as you mentioned. That's where you started some of your singing. And you have the voice, but you have to develop it. You have to keep using it. It's there. If you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't
right.
take care of it, you lose it. And yet that voice can bring yours, not mine. I used to lead some singing in small churches, but I did not have the voice. But there it is that can help the world to be a better place.
Yeah, we're finding a lot of our singers today that are from churches, and they sing a different style, but when they come and sing for us, we train them to use the complete voice. Because often, you know, I grew up singing in church,
Right.
like probably most singers. You use a certain part of the voice, but in classical music, you use all the voice. You know, you use the top range that often is not used in other styles. And I think it's exciting for people to find that they can do things that they didn't realize they could. They just knew they had a voice. And everyone sings whatever it is they know. See, I didn't know really what opera was till I went to college. If I had known about it, maybe I would have tried it before, but I didn't know about it. Yvonne already, my wife, had already known about opera, so she was singing it by the time she was 13, 14 years old. But what we're doing also is introducing El Paso singers to a style of music that if you were to ask them today what they get out of the singing that they do with us, they'll say it's a whole new level of creating music that is thrilling.
Wow, our time is gone. Thank you for being here and helping to make
Thank
El
you.
Paso and Juarez a better place,
Thank you so much.
a musical place.